Well, let's start the show.
Okay.
So today is September 25th.
Yes, it is.
All right. And we passed September 23rd. We're still here.
We are here, everyone.
All right. Josh, you had some things you wanted to start the show off with saying. I'm going to give you the floor.
Okay. Well, first of all, welcome to the Not of This World podcast.
Yep.
I'm Josh. Steve, you just heard from a second ago. I do want to start things off, I guess, and just kind of discuss what just went on. The, chaos of the world over September 23rd coming. And going back on it, when things first came out about September 23rd, that Brother Joshua video, and I saw the video, and I originally was like, no one knows the day or hour. That's not possible. I don't agree with this. And then, I started watching a few other videos. And when I finally heard about the idiom, that was what changed me. I was like, oh my gosh, Jesus was talking about the Feast of Trumpets. He was using an idiom. And then I started to really believe. And, like I made the video, I asked God for confirmations, and I truly thought I received confirmation. And I still went back and forth in my mind if this was going to happen or if this wasn't. Maybe I made up those confirmations, but they were just so blatant. They were so real. And now that it's passed, I'm kind of angry at myself. I've prayed a few times on it already and repented and asked for forgiveness, but I allowed myself to be swayed away from what the actual word is. And I think it's because I wanted it to be true, and I allowed myself to be swayed. And yeah, I'm really actually disappointed. And I have to look at it as a learning lesson, because I will never let that happen again. And in these, I do still believe it's the final days. I believe the rapture could happen any moment, but we don't know when. And that is very clear. I went back and read it again yesterday. And it's not an idiom. It's not. Jesus is saying no man knows the day or hour. He says the angels don't. The Son doesn't. Only the Father knows. And then he goes on to even give a parable about knowing. So I clearly was putting blinders up. The one part I still don't understand is, what were those confirmations? Was it coincidence? Because there was just so much that I don't feel like it could have been coincidence. Was I being deceived by the enemy? That's a possibility. I don't know. And that's something that I've also prayed to God about, and I don't know how I'll get an answer on that. I really don't. But I think it's just something I'll have to live with, is I don't understand what those confirmations were.
Well, I can't say anything, but I don't blame you for anything. I am super thankful that we got all you guys as subscribers, and you're in the right place. Like, we're looking at anything in the Bible, we're going over things, and we are not going to back away from hot topics when it comes to Christianity. And we follow all kinds of people who believe in this stuff. So if you're only looking for rapture content, we hope that you'll find the other stuff we're going to start talking about of value. And as we were going through the transition from day to day, from the 24th to the 25th, we're talking about the new episode. And I just was trying to think of something that we needed to talk about. And I kept thinking about how Jesus came on this earth as God, and how when he got to the point where people were starting to recognize him as the Messiah, he was supposed to come here and help defeat the Roman army from the Jewish perspective. And it was the last thing he was going to do. He changed the world, of course, and the Roman Empire did get defeated through Christianity, I believe. But that's not what Jesus' plan was. And sometimes when God does something, you have to wait a little while to see what comes of all this. So what our main objective for today is talking about how, if you came to Christ during this time, we want to help have a conversation about when you become a believer, things do get hard, and sometimes you have to go back to basics. So that's what episode 7 is going to be about. I did start with a video that I thought was really cool, Josh, that I got really excited watching on Sunday, the Charlie Kirk Memorial.
Okay.
And I just recently went to see Brandon Lake and Phil Wickham in concert.
Okay.
And it was amazing.
Was that the one in July?
It was.
Okay, yeah.
And it was amazing to see how God's working through things. And I don't know the numbers per se, but when we were there, they ended their concert singing gratitude.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end of it, he asked people, they shared the gospel of who Jesus was and what he did. And then they said, if you're new to faith and you just got brought here and you want to give your life to Jesus, or you're somebody who's been walking that line where maybe you need to recommit yourself.
Yeah. Will
you please raise your hand? And I don't know if it's, you don't never know with people in the audience that big, but I'd say over 1,000 people gave their life to Jesus that day, which
that's amazing.
I go to church and I'll talk to my pastor and he says maybe, a few people per 500, 600 people will raise their hand. But to see that change and that shift, like we talked about in episode 2, going to the Emerge conference, and seeing just the shift in men in the last 3-4 years, things are changing, and it's not all bad. Like, you guys have to see that while we're talking about the stuff that's happening that's evil in this world, God is making things for good. And so I thought we could start off with a video talking about revival, and then we're going to start working into getting them back to basics.
Okay, yeah, and I think it is important for us to continue doing our podcast, and for many other people too, because exactly what you just mentioned, how there is some sort of revival going. Yeah. There's people coming to God from all different angles, from, God using Charlie Kirk's death as a positive, from, Brandon Lake's popularity, other artists' popularity, whatever avenue they might be coming to God. I think there needs to be a lot of content, because with so many people coming to God, you don't want them to be the seed that falls on the rocky soil. Right. You don't want them to be receiving the word quickly and gone in a week. Right?
Yeah. And like, that's kind of the niche what I think we're trying to fall into is, like, when we start talking about doing this, we're not trying to be like the guys we see on TV doing the same things they're doing. Like, we have a format that might be similar to some of the things they're doing, but you and I are dramatically different from people. So we're trying to bring that authenticity. Yeah. And that when people watch us, we're just being genuine with who we are. Yeah. Like, I know going into this episode, it was kind of more the one I was like, oh no, like, we got to address some things that happened over the last few weeks. And I was like, I just wanted to come and like be accountable. Yeah. That's part of being a Christian, is being like not running from things that are hard.
Yeah. And actually that's a great point that I didn't address in that opening monologue. But when we're talking about some of the kind of leaders during the whole rapture lead up, we had the brother Joshua, everyone knows that, and Medic for Christ, and some of these guys that were the loudest voices out during it. I just want to leave it with, I don't know. I genuinely believe Medic for Christ seems like a great person, truly loves God, and he was just putting together dates, and a lot of that stuff really lined up. That's what was making it easy to believe. As far as Brother Joshua, I don't know what his intentions were. I don't know if he was deceived by the devil acting as Jesus. I have no idea, and I'm never going to know. But the one thing I'm not going to do is I'm not going to judge him, because that's not my place. That is between him and God on what happened there. And I just have to move forward with my life, and so does everybody else. And I do believe that God let the devil test all of us who were believing that those dates were coming. God let the devil test us, and we failed. I know I failed. And that's okay, because fortunately this time the consequences are minimal. I know God is a forgiving God, and I can repent to him, and I can tell him that I'm never going to let it happen again. But as we move closer to the real end, there's going to be more and more and more deception. And that's why I think this did have to be taken as a learning lesson for a lot of people. So yeah, with that being said, did you want to get going on the videos? Let's roll.
All I know is the past year, I have met more excited followers of Christ on campuses than ever before. I am very excited the way young people are taking Jesus more seriously. So I am very, very excited about what's happening.
The church was full today. The parking lot was so full, there were people driving and parking in the grass. The enemy thought that they had won. You just started a mass awakening. This is what Charlie would have wanted, a mass revival. Church was full this morning, not an open seat. On our way to church for the first time in the last 15 years, you did it, Charlie. This is all across the country. As a matter of fact, look at this, the Jesus March in Dallas, right down through the center of town on behalf of Charlie. Look at some of these candlelight vigils here in New York. Long Island, of all places, thousands showing up. Stop what you're doing. There are millions of these posts and comments. People consider going to church tomorrow for Charlie. Keep going, it'll change your life. Not a single dry eye in church today. I've received more messages over the past week about people choosing to go to church than ever before. Something is truly happening. Church today was packed. Hundreds standing in the back, cars overflowing in the lot, lines down the street just to get in. There's a real shift happening in America, a great revival. Not going to church? Oops, already here.
Revival happening in Texas. Check this out.
3,381 people. 3,381 people were baptized in Texas.
Out of the Charlie Kirk Memorial, all I could say is red hot revival. Woo! It was literally revival. I cannot tell you guys, 3 hours of worship. Every single person, White House staff, every single person preached the gospel. Preached repentance, turn to Christ. This is revival. J.D. Vance said everyone thought we were here for a funeral, but we're here for a revival.
Chorus one more time. I know a lot of us are on the phones and a lot of us are taking this in. But if we could have one moment with all of our attention pointing to the one who created us, who loves us the most, and nothing that you could do could ever make him love you any less, any more. Can we give him just about 30 seconds of our undivided attention as we sing this chorus? With our hands to the heavens today, surrendering everything that we're feeling, that we're facing, that we're wrestling with, knowing that he is sovereign, he is higher, we can trust him. Come on, let's worship him here. Every voice, every hand, you take it away. So I throw up my head and praise you again. I know it's not much, nothing else. One more time. So I throw up my head, praise you again and again. All that I have is hallelujah, hallelujah. And I know it's not.
So that was really cool.
Yeah. Brandon Lake just did an interview.
It's happening right now, but it is the closest thing, if not absolute revival. We've seen so many videos posting that they've just found Jesus. They've just given their life to Jesus. Or come back to Jesus.
A long time away, yeah.
What the enemy intends for evil, God intends for good. And we are watching that play out right now. I'm proud of all of you that have decided to follow Jesus. Just after gratitude, we went into Agnus Dei and sang Holy is the Lord God Almighty. And it was in that moment, which I sing that song every night on tour, and that all of a sudden, no one was singing. The strings were playing. And for the next 9 minutes, no one sang a word. And it was the most holy moment. I have goosebumps that I have ever experienced in worship. I'm about.
And it's very, if you can go to one of his concerts, I'm telling you, go to one of his concerts. It's amazing.
Yeah. Well, it's amazing that Charlie Kirk wasn't a politician and he wasn't like a pastor, but that whole entire place is represented by Christians and conservatives.
Right.
And it's cool. Like, I don't like to get political very much. Right. I have my opinions, I have my thoughts, but I try to kind of not be political. But I do have to say, if things were reversed and this was a liberal figure that was as popular as Charlie Kirk, what would the music be like at that event? If they had Brandon Lake singing at that, I don't think anyone would know the words. And that tells me a lot about the way things have really split politically with Christianity.
Yeah.
And I don't like that. I don't like that.
Well, go back to our testimonies on episode 2. And I'm like, the elections and the midterms, I was just like, I broke my brain. I'm like, I can't keep trusting the government. I can't keep trusting. I'm like, it wasn't that I didn't trust God.
Yeah.
I just had faith in other things too. I thought, he does tell us, Jesus does say, honor the government, follow their rules, be part of your society.
Yeah.
He doesn't tell you not to do that. But when you see things break down to the point where they don't have your best interests at heart and the people around you that you love and care about, it's time to make different decisions. So not trusting the government anymore, like basically put it on like trusting God. And
yeah. So to me, I mean, it's just kind of crazy, because if you were to go back, 40 years, right, when we were little kids, there was plenty of Christian Democrats, plenty of Christian Republicans.
Right.
And just to see that shift, right. And I know there are still Christian Democrats right now. But just the shift in how many have switched.
Right.
And it's kind of crazy. It really begins to set up a good versus evil situation
on both sides.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's almost becoming like one side of politics are Christian, one side is not. And that's what I mean by the good versus evil.
The point I'm making, though, is both sides sees themselves as the good side.
Oh, of course.
Both sides sees themselves, the other side, as being evil.
Yes.
And it's like a narrative being driven not by talking.
Yeah.
And seeing what happened with Charlie Kirk is basically someone just shutting somebody up from sharing a perspective from one side.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's not good.
No,
it's not good at all how much it has shifted.
Yeah, we're supposed to be able to talk to people.
Yes, you're supposed to be able to debate and actually have positive points. And the fact that the actual Christian side being on one side of the politics versus non-Christian, I don't like that at all either.
Right.
It's not meant to be that way.
Right.
And that's what kind of leads you back into like, we know who controls Earth, right? Who's the power that's in charge on Earth? It's the devil.
Right.
So,
well, at least God let him have.
No, yeah. I mean, God has ultimate control, but
not trying to correct.
The devil runs the world. I mean, it says it in the Bible. The devil runs the world. And so
it's almost like God couldn't get in the way anymore after Adam and Eve bit the apple. Yeah. And it's like, God's like, almost like you saw your kid being in trouble and he's like, well, what am I going to do? And nothing was working. So he's like, I'm going to go down there myself in a body.
Yeah.
I'm going to take care of this sin problem for good.
Yep.
So, I mean, that's the beautiful thing about what Jesus did is, he'd say he did it all for us.
Yeah.
So,
but I guess the point I was trying to make with all of that is we know it's a spiritual battle. Right? For eternity.
Yeah.
It's a spiritual battle for eternity. It's now starting to come to head in a straight up spiritual battle for our physical lives too.
Yeah.
And that's pretty scary. Like that's kind of what leads you into the whole, like, we have got to be getting into the end times or in the end times.
Which leads me to the first video we have. We're going to go back to basics and I want to tell a short story quickly before we get into it. I might touch on this on our testimonies in episode 2, but I don't know if I did it for sure or not. But I had a small period of time where I was super into The Secret. Did you ever watch The Secret?
I didn't watch it. I read the book.
Okay. Did you get into it at all?
A little. I wasn't like into it, but I believe there is a power behind that.
Okay. So the law of attraction was something I got into a lot, and I was hyper focused on it for probably a few months. And one night I'm listening to The Secret, and I probably listened to it 100 times.
Yeah.
If not more, if
Okay.
I'm being completely honest.
Wow.
I was all in. I saw working, changing things in my life, and I was putting it into full effect. We had vision boards, everything. So if you guys watch The Secret, you know what I'm talking about. And one night I'm watching The Secret, and there's a part where they talk about a genie, and when the universe is your genie. And as I'm listening to it for the whatever time that I've listened to it, I started to realize they've replaced God with the universe.
Yeah.
And that's when my mind goes, they just redid the Bible.
Pretty much. Okay.
You ready to roll this
Start it.
video?
3, 2.
Do you know that the law of attraction is always working? It's like the law of gravity. If I let this go, it's going to go down. It's never going to go back up. It's going to go down. That is the law of gravity. Anything heavier than Earth is attracted towards the center of the world. Well, the law of attraction is always working. Now, how does it work? Well, I use a diagram to explain the mind. Now, let this circle represent your mind. And let this little circle here represent your body. Now, I want you to think of this for a moment. The law of attraction. You've got to change this. You've got to change the vibration you're in, and your whole world changes. Listen, in 1961, a man gave me this book.
I'll just go on record. I'm very comfortable saying it. I believe in God. I do. I think there are many things that science can explain. There are certain things science can't explain. But I'll even go a step further, which is that all the elements of science are entirely compatible with the idea of there being a God. And I'm not the first scientist to say this. I mean, Einstein believed in God. Carl Jung, one of the greatest psychologists ever, clearly believed in God. There are many atheist scientists. There are agnostic scientists who are just kind of like unsure, right? And, you know, for me, I'm in absolute awe of biology. It's just incredible that we're sitting here having this conversation. It's that with language, that there are little sound waves that you're perceiving and understanding. I mean, it's just, and I think the brain represents the apex of incredible in terms of biology. Like the heart is interesting, the immune system is interesting, the liver is interesting, but the brain is unbelievable.
Yeah.
I mean, think about the number of different ways you can move your body compared to another species. Think about what you did today. Think about what I was attempting to do today, right?
Yeah.
Spectacular. Think about technology. These lights, the, you know, Tesla cars, spaceships. I mean,
yeah,
the internet. I mean, unbelievable. And yet, oh, so real.
Yeah.
So, you know, I mean, we could talk a bit about how I, you know, well, I'll just say this. Secretly, I've always prayed. I grew up in a split religion home. My family's like the UN. We've got people from Guatemala, Denmark, Argentina, New York. Like all the different political battles are in my family. Super left, super right, libertarians, lefties to the, you know, it's crazy. Thanksgivings can be difficult.
Yeah.
But I'll say this, you know, I absolutely pray. I absolutely love that the idea, but also what for me is really a deep belief, which is that we can't control everything. We're not in as much control as we think we are. And that the magnificence of biology and the magnificence of nature is, it's impossible for me to conceive how that could come about any other way. It just is. Now, yeah, I mean, I think that, you know, full stop.
Who do you pray to?
That's an interesting one because I think God. Yeah. So I absolutely do. I've actually started reading the Bible recently, start to finish. I feel like it's my duty to like learn and in some sense compare Old and New Testament. I'm really interested in the stories, but I'm fascinated by the story of us, right? And the story of everything. And so, but yeah, I pray out loud in the morning, sometimes again in the middle of the night if I wake up. And it's only recently that I've been doing this more often.
It's given you peace? Or?
Oh, my goodness. It's given me so much. It's given me peace. And, you know, it's going to sound weird and probably people are going to be like, what are you talking about? If it works. It works. There's a way in which certain things I was grappling with, you know, I just couldn't resolve. I couldn't do it. And it was all internal, and I just couldn't do it.
How were you trying to resolve these things? Like have an answer?
Yeah, discipline myself. I mean, it wasn't like I was super, undisciplined. I mean, obviously I have a lot of self-discipline, but I always pray, I want to remove my defects of character. I always wanted to have a deeper relationship to God. I always wanted that. And I kind of was like, why don't I have that? Well, duh. That's like saying I want to be fit. Why I'm not fit? Well, because you're not running, you're not lifting, you're not doing the things. It was like, and it was a couple of different people that kept showing up in my life, and they were doing it, and it was like, well, pray. And I've learned, and I certainly try and do this, that a lot of prayer is about listening, and a lot of prayer is about you ask for things or listen for things, and then an hour later, 2 days later, you go, wait. Like, it doesn't happen in the moment necessarily, just like fitness. I don't want to compare fitness. I don't want to trivialize prayer by comparing to fitness, but there's some parallels that are relevant. It's
consistent work.
Yeah, it's consistent work. And then all of a sudden, like, things come up. And you're like, oh my goodness, I can't believe it. That makes so much sense.
All right, so that's Andrew Huberman. He was on a podcast sharing his views on prayer, and I was trying to share that with the a little bit of joke with the showing the part of the secret, the law of attraction, and how I just shared how I feel like I got tricked into using the secret, but that wasn't when I was using God in my life all the time. But I started realizing that if you use your prayer life, God doesn't always give you what you want, especially not right when you want it. But I started seeing how the things that he's mentioning, if you start investing time into praying to God and talking to him, getting to know him, you're going to start seeing those shifts and changes in your life that will take effect.
Yeah. Well, I think it's kind of funny because the secret, right? I think there is some truth behind all of that stuff, but you have to look at the fact that God is the creator of all of these energies. He's the creator of vibrations.
Right.
He's the creator of our thoughts.
Right.
And he's the controller of all of these things too. So God intends for us to give it all to him. To trust in him and then obey him. And he knows the perfect timing for these things. So it's like they took it, like you said, and they just twisted the Bible into some new age. And that's the basis behind all new age stuff, is there is some truth to it. So it's easy for people. And I think what people like is people want control of their own lives, and they get to control their outcome. They get to control their happiness. They get to control their thoughts, right? But God doesn't intend it for us that way. God intends us to give it all to him. And then he can control.
It's just amazing to me that you can take something that even is in the Bible, like prayer, and package it, rebrand it, and basically say, like, what can I take from the Bible? Because it happens all the time. You see movies, like people say Star Wars is basically the Bible rewritten in a different way. And as you start watching, or The Matrix, I shared with you a while ago, the movie The Matrix, literally The Matrix means the womb. And the story of Neo's supposed to be Jesus. And literally the woman who wrote it, she said, I just took the Bible and rewrote it in a futuristic way. And the movie, Warner Brothers completely walked away from it in that aspect and won't have any, because the book's not called that, but it's literally just a book that the woman wrote. But she's like, I wrote about Jesus. I wanted people to hear the story of Jesus, but if they want to hear it this way, they'll hear it a different way. So I started seeing, and the other videos I have for you guys coming up, you're going to start seeing things that Jesus used and God used, and you're going to start seeing how the secular world will be like, well, it's science. Well, who created science? Who's the master designer of all of this? Of course, the science is going to back up what God did. Recently, I've just heard a lot of people who were atheists starting to go like, the Big Bang's just not making sense anymore. How does it?
Like, Jesus makes more sense. The difference between science and religion is that science only asks you for one miracle. I want you to believe in one miracle, the Big Bang. It's because it really is true. And it's funny because people would be incredulous about the resurrection of Jesus Christ, but yet they're convinced that the entire universe was smaller than the head of a pin, and for no reason than anybody's adequately explained to me. Makes sense. Instantaneously became everything. Okay.
I can't buy that.
I'm sticking with Jesus.
How does it? I've never, like, even before I was really into God,
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't make sense of all that stuff.
Yeah.
And I would ask a question, like, for instance, evolution.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, okay, so I'm supposed to believe that we started as a nothing
Mm-hmm.
and then became a little something and then a little something, walked our way out of the water, and then ended up as, apes, right? And then we went from ape to human.
Mm-hmm.
Why then did apes stop evolving?
That's funny because Herschel Walker just said that recently.
Really?
And someone was making fun of him from it. They're like,
why did they stop evolving?
It makes complete sense to me though. When he said it, I was like, that's
why would one type of ape decide to get down?
Why
from the
would
trees
all
and
animals stop evolving to the point where why are we so different?
Yeah, and I do think certain animals adapt in time, but that's because God created them with the ability to adapt to changing environments because the Earth is always
the same way.
Yeah,
yeah,
and it's mind blowing when you think about what an atheist believes. It is so much more difficult to believe than there being a creator who created all of this.
Right.
And everything is so complex.
Mm-hmm.
Like he was talking about our mind.
Right.
Our mind is so complex.
Yeah.
There's no way it happened by accident.
Before, I know we gave our testimonies, and I don't know how strong was your prayer life in the past?
I mean, growing up, I would, every once in a while, I would pray.
Mm-hmm.
And then I would, a lot of times when I needed something, I would cry out. And then besides that, I would go through periods where I would try, like when I got in bed, I would say a quick prayer, just saying thank you. And that's about it.
Where have you seen your life change since you started praying more?
In every way. Like
for me, it's mental.
Yeah.
Times when I feel alone, I don't feel alone. And I've had a good prayer life all my life, but like I definitely have gotten away from it at times where like I was committed to it.
Yeah.
And it's like some people talk, and I might have shared this before, but some people talk to themselves in their head. I often talk to God in my head, where I'm not. Some people might say that's not praying, and it might not be, but I'm trying to have an internal dialogue with knowing He's looking at me at all times.
I think that's an important relationship with God.
I agree.
It's not sitting down and saying, dear God.
But I don't know if other people think like I do, because it's not something that everyone talks about all the time.
I believe that God intends that for us.
I do
the same thing. Walking throughout the day, like I'll think a bad thought about something.
Right.
Or someone, and I'm just like, oh, sorry, God, what am I,
So Jesus spitting you out like you're lukewarm. That's definitely what I didn't want to be found lukewarm, even though I know I have my prayer life in my head.
Yeah.
There was other things in my life I wanted to fix.
Okay.
And I think that's one of the things like last year as we were leading into talking about the rapture stuff, like we're getting away from that. But I went through this all last year where I'm like, I didn't want to be found lukewarm, but there's so many parts of my life that I felt I was lukewarm.
Okay.
So I just wanted to see those shifts in me.
Yeah. Yeah. And so my life is also like transitioned. I do that too. I talk to God throughout the day in my head. I wake up every morning. That's the first thing I do in the morning is I go downstairs and I sit down and I pray, and then I read my Bible after. Yeah. And it's kind of funny. You know what the witching hour is, right?
That's early in the morning?
Well, yeah, it's supposed to be, I want to say like between like 2:30 and 5 in the morning or 5:30 or something. Anyway, it's the hours when the veil's the thinnest, right? Yeah. And so I feel like God when you really start getting into prayer, God starts waking you up at 3 in the morning, 3:30 in the morning, 4 in the morning to pray.
Is this called like the third watch?
Or the fourth watch is the other.
That's what I was thinking of, yeah.
And so this morning I woke up at 4-ish. It was like 4:07 or something like that a.m. and went and used the restroom really quick. And I'm in my head, I'm like, am I supposed to pray right now? I don't want to pray right now. I want to go back to sleep. Go back to sleep. And as I get back to my bed, my headphones are sitting there. And I got these headphones that have a little screen on them. When you first turn them on, it says hello. And then it goes and has a regular screen. But that goes away in like 2 seconds. It just says hello on the screen. And it just sat there on hello. And I'm like pressing the button. I'm like, no hello. No hello. I want to go to sleep. I'm not awake to pray right now. And I lay down. It would not go away from the hello.
Yeah.
Until I got back up. And then it went away.
Yeah.
And I'm like, hello, God. Hi. And so I had like, it was almost like I was forced to pray this morning from that, which.
Can I ask you a personal question?
Yeah.
Do you always get on your knees to pray?
No, not always. I usually pray at the table in the morning. I sit down, but sometimes I do.
Because I've shared with you, and I don't know if I've shared with the show, that I have been waking up at like 2, 3, 4 in the morning, sometimes for months on end. And it's not to go to the bathroom. I just wake up and I'm alert and like almost like I'm supposed to be ready for something. And I don't get on my knees and pray at that moment. I just close my eyes back again and I start
pray in your head.
And and so I fall asleep sometimes praying.
Okay.
Like I always feel kind of guilty, even when in my head when we're talking about prayer. Like I kind of feel guilty where I'm like, I'll start thinking of other things.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, I'm so sorry, God. I don't know what I'm thinking about what I'm gonna do with my day. And like,
Yeah.
So I'm like, please forgive me. But I think, I wonder if we get to heaven and God we have a good laugh about it. Where he's like, you think all kinds of weird stuff. You should hear what I think. Like you see what this guy thinks. I know what all you guys think. So hopefully that's the way it
sure
goes.
Hope so.
Yeah. Music has always been part of our friendship.
Yeah.
And I think that we're talking about getting back to basics. One thing that shifted for me was listening to worship music.
Yeah.
And definitely being excited that there's a lot of cool worship music nowadays. Like there's almost something for everybody, whether it be heavy metal or rap or whatever you're into. There's usually something you can find. How's worship music been for you?
I listen to worship music most of the time now. I hear a lot of people like hating on it.
Yeah.
And I do think there is a line, right? Some of it's like, that's not really worshiping God. That's just saying the words God and Jesus in a song. Right. And some of that, it's just kind of that fine line, but there is a lot of good stuff, I think. And I don't know. When I drive, I sing at the top of my lungs and try to give God praise and worship during that time and try to connect.
Well, like even before when we were like in the Marine Corps together, one thing we always like, music is a huge part of our lives. Mm-hmm. And I was talking to my wife about it recently, about how it used to be something before we had screens. You'd actually sit down and just play music around your buddy because they may not have heard what you've heard before.
Yeah.
Or we're in a car and you're like, hey, check this out.
Yeah.
And you'd show them a song. Sometimes I like it, sometimes they didn't. But you take turns, you do these things, and music was such a big part of our lives. Where now we have playlists that play everything for you, where you save your music, and nobody wants to listen to each other's music as much.
Yeah.
But I do think there's power in worship, and I think that that's why we're called to worship God. And so I've got this video that I found talking about the power of music.
Okay.
So I'd like to start that video with you right now. We'll check it out, and then we'll come back. Let's talk about it.
Cool.
And today, even the youngest children learn to tootle an instrument.
We also love to imitate rhythm, and that's due to the existence of mirror neurons in our brains. When the brain sees an action, you don't have to move to experience that motion in your brain because the mirror neurons are responding sympathetically. We've always had an instinctive faculty to imitate. We call it mimesis. Yawns are contagious. If I see you yawning, I yawn back. But also emotions are contagious. When I hear a sad song, my body, my mirror neurons are instinctively sympathizing, are mimicking, are mirroring. The sadness of the song isn't just acoustic, it's also encoding the behavior which we associate with sadness, which is grieving. Emotion isn't just feeling. Darwin was the first to observe that emotion had an adaptive role in the field, that animals and people, they experience emotions in relation to goals which help them survive. So happiness is when you achieve a goal, anger is when the goal is blocked. Sadness is when you lose a loved one. Fear is the most archetypal emotion. When you're exposed to a threat, you have an instinctive response to either freeze or to fight or to flee. Music is full of similar responses. There's an extreme reaction to music which has been called the chills or frisson or the sublime. There are moments in music which are so intense, and they're often triggered by breakthrough moments of loudness or extremity. You have the same parts of the brain which respond to that as response to fear, which is why the chills give you goosebumps or piloerection. The hairs on your skin literally stand on end. But you enjoy this fear, and this is very strange. And we have a similar experience when we go on a fairground ride or when we're watching a volcanic eruption in the safety of an observation platform. It's almost as if music is violence without the danger. Nobody dies in music. It is why we think that music is able to express emotion in a very visceral way. So when you're listening to music, it's a kind of mental time travel. When you're absorbed in a work, you're traveling back through layer upon layer of your brain, almost biologically, which is why I call music a sort of umbilical cord back to Mother Nature.
Yeah, I think that's pretty interesting.
The nerdy scientific way to look at how music affects our brain.
Pretty much. But the most interesting part is, I mean, there's so much to that, right? All the science behind it. Going back to our creator created us like that for a reason. And it's funny because when you listen to a lot of the near-death experience videos, or even in the Bible, when it talks about up in heaven, there's worship music going on in heaven.
Right.
So God loves that.
Yeah.
God loves worship music. And so he clearly created us to have a visceral response to music, right?
Right.
But it's also interesting. I've heard that Lucifer was in charge of worship in heaven.
I've read that
before.
Yeah.
And so he uses that on earth. And so our music is also being weaponized against us in a lot of ways, depending on what kind of music you're listening to.
I agree.
So the devil is using it because it brings out like animalistic reactions in people. So that's why a lot of the, you know, the club music and whatever, it's meant to bring out our carnal desires. And yeah, that's...
Well, I believe we're all meant to worship. We're designed to do it.
For sure.
And like for me, the reason I brought up this music element is because when I've gone through some hard times, your thought patterns obviously can be negative when you're going through something rough. It's almost impossible to continue that pattern when you stop thinking about yourself and worshiping God.
Yeah.
And you put on worship music. It's almost like no matter how bad things are, if I stop to worship God, it's like my way of thinking changes.
Yeah.
You're running a race and you're like, okay, I know I'm going a straight line. I know this ends at a point.
Yeah.
I can keep running this race. I just got to keep focusing. So you reshift your mind back into that. That's what worship does too. And I was the guy at church that would, you've been to my church before.
Yeah.
They have a pretty good worship team. But when I showed up the first day, I was like, what is this? Because I've always been in churches where it's pretty monotone.
Yeah.
They have an organ in the background or a piano, and it's like everyone just sings together at a very like level pitch.
Yeah.
And these people are rocking out and people are raising their hands. And I'm like, I don't know if God likes this, you know? And now I'm the guy, they talk about different levels of worship where you kind of bob your head and nod your head or whatever. And then you start to sing.
Yeah.
And then you start to do your hands up just a little bit. And then you see the guys like this, like I'm almost to the hand part where I got my hands down low. But like, I think it's not funny though. We went to the Brandon Lake concert and I'm like jamming out. It's interesting how it goes like that.
Let go in church, huh?
Oh, I don't want to fake it, you know?
Yeah,
like I especially they play a new song and I'll be like, I don't know the words.
Yeah.
And for me, I got to internalize it and I want to know it. And not that I won't believe it. And then some worship songs just hit me hard. Like I can show you a worship song and you'll be like, yeah, it was good. And I'm like, what do you mean it's good? That was like the greatest song ever.
It's funny how they like hit people differently. But worship has actually become like my favorite part of church.
Yeah.
And I was the same way when I first, like, I was just like,
I was here for the sermon.
This is kind of weird.
Yeah.
Right. Why is everyone,
you know, church taught me this. And my church is Rock Point Church in Queen Creek, Arizona. I love it. Our pastor had taught us that, you know, you think the worship part is the band upstage singing. It's not. That's not worship. It's you.
Yeah.
In the audience worshiping God.
See that
they're here to help you.
That's actually what bothered me about it when I first started going to the churches with the, you know, the good bands and everything. And I was like, are these people idolizing the band?
Right.
And that kind of bothered me. And then I just, through going, realized, no, they're just worshiping.
Right.
And now, like I said, it's my favorite part of going to church, because I read the Bible all week, and I watch sermons online to learn more and stuff like that. So it's almost like the sermon at church is still obviously good, but it's like the worship, being around everyone worshiping, you can feel the Holy Spirit in the room. That's kind of become my favorite part of church.
Yeah, we've recommended Brandon Lake a few times. That's one of my favorite artists. I think you really like him as well. Phil Wickham has become one of my new favorite artists, and he tours with Brandon Lake. And I didn't like Phil's music at first, and he's so spirit led.
Yeah,
you start to see his conviction in his faith, and then you're like, everything he starts to sing about has substance in a way that maybe he wasn't my favorite musician at first, but then you're like, oh, I really like this as a person.
Yeah,
and it starts to have this different effect on you, where you're like, I actually like this now.
Yeah.
Is there any artist that you would say that you, off the top of your head, that you would suggest to anybody who's getting into worship music?
Elevation Worship has a lot of good songs. Yeah. They really do. They're a great one. Some recently, I can't remember the name of the artist, but there's a song Oceans that it actually played at the beginning of one of the
United
videos.
Does it.
Hillsong United?
Yeah,
I don't think that's the version I have.
There's a lot of different people who sing
but
that.
I love that song.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then honestly, I can't think of anything off the top.
I know Josh isn't into rap, but KB is one of my favorite rappers. It's a Christian rapper. Aaron Cole is awesome. Taryn Wells, Casting Crowns. It has some really good songs. So there's tons more. Just look up any kind of genre of music you want and put gospel behind it, and you're going to find something you like. But worshiping is definitely something that I would do. If right now you're going through a struggle, I think worshiping is going to be praying, and worshiping is going to be two things that you can do. And part of worshiping God is going to be about taking care of your body. So what you're putting in your body, not just through prayer and through your ears, your diet and exercise, and basically what I'm saying, putting in your body, I'm talking about alcohol, weed, any of these things. Like, you should refrain from these things. If you're going through a hard time, turn to God. Don't turn to those things. It's going to make a huge difference in your life. It might be hard, but if you ask God for help, He'll help you. The last thing I thought about, and it's going to be a really unpopular opinion to do as a podcast or people who are trying to put out content, is our first episode was about what you put in your head through your screens. I think the next video I have right now, it's going to be a really good example of that. Can we get into that real quick, and then we'll talk about afterwards?
For sure. So many times that your body now knows how to do it better than your mind. So if you think about it, people wake up in the morning, they begin to think about their problems. Those problems are circuits of memories in the brain. Each one of those memories are connected to people and things at certain times and places. And if the brain is a record of the past, the moment they start their day, they're already thinking in the past. Each one of those memories has an emotion. Emotions are the end product of past experiences. So the moment they recall those memories of their problems, they all of a sudden feel unhappy, they feel sad, they feel pain. Now, how you think and how you feel creates your state of being. So the person's entire state of being when they start their day is in the past. So what does that mean? The familiar past will sooner or later be predictable future. So if you believe that your thoughts have something to do with your destiny, and you can't think greater than how you feel, or feelings have become the means of thinking, by very definition of emotions, you're thinking in the past. And for the most part, you're going to keep creating the same life. So then people grab their cell phone, they check their WhatsApp, they check their text, they check their emails, they check Facebook, they take a picture of their feet, they post it on Facebook, they tweet something, they do Instagram. They check the news, and now they feel really connected to everything that's known in their life. And then they go through a series of routine behaviors. They get out of bed on the same side, they go to the toilet, they get a cup of coffee, they take a shower, they get dressed, they drive to work the same way, they do the same things, they see the same people, they push the same emotional buttons, and that becomes the routine, and it becomes like a program. So now they've lost their free will to a program.
Becoming what? Slaves to this system like everybody else. We need mountains, we need dirt, we need air.
And there's no unseen hand doing it to them. So when it comes time to change, the redundancy of that cycle becomes a subconscious program. So now 95% of who we are by the time we're 35 years old is a memorized set of behaviors, emotional reactions, unconscious habits, hardwired attitudes, beliefs, and perceptions that function like a computer program. So then a person can say with their 5% of their conscious mind, I want to be healthy, I want to be happy, I want to be free. But the body's on a whole different program. So then how do you begin to make those changes? Well, you have to get beyond the analytical mind, because what separates the conscious mind from the subconscious mind is the analytical mind. So most people then wait for crisis or trauma or disease or diagnosis. They wait for loss, some tragedy to make up their mind to change. And my message is, why wait? And that's where meditation comes in, because you can teach people through practice how to change their brainwaves, slow them down. And when they do that properly, they do enter the operating system where they can begin to make some really important changes. And then I think the hardest part is to teach our body emotionally what the future will feel like ahead of the actual experience. Your body is your unconscious mind. In a sense, if you're sitting down and you start thinking about some future worst case scenario that you're conjuring up in your mind, and you begin to feel the emotion of that event, your body doesn't know the difference between the event that's taking place in your world, outer world, and what you're creating by emotion or thought alone. So most people then, they're constantly reaffirming their emotional states. So when it comes time to give up that emotion, they can say, I really want to do it, but really the body is stronger than the mind because it's been conditioned that way. So the servant now has become the master, and the person all of a sudden, once they step into that unknown, they'd rather feel guilt and suffering because at least they can predict it. Being in the unknown is a scary place for most people because the unknown is uncertain. People say to me, well, I can't predict my future. I'm in the unknown, and I always say the best way to predict your future is to create it. Not from the known, but from the unknown. What thoughts do you want to fire and wire in your brain? What behaviors do you want to demonstrate in one day? The act of rehearsing them mentally, closing your eyes, and rehearsing the action. If you're truly present, the brain does not know the difference between what you're imaging and what you're experiencing in 3D world. So then you begin to install the neurological hardware in your brain to look like the event has already occurred. Now, your brain is no longer a record of the past. Now it's a map to the future. And if you keep doing it, priming it that way, the hardware becomes a software program, and who knows, you just may start acting like a happy person.
So, thanks for all your new age,
my hippie
your new age
mumbo
fix
jumbo.
your life garbage.
Yeah, but these are the things that I used to watch, though.
Yeah, I know.
And there's still like a Matthew McConaughey motivational speech, and he's a Christian that I still get jacked up to, that I listen to sometimes. But he talks about God in it too, so it's,
Yeah. Well, no, it's funny. I used to listen to a lot of the same stuff, and I read books on, all of it, right? All of it. And it's just funny because look at society right now. This is like a multi-billion-dollar business. All of this self-help, all of this heal yourself mumbo jumbo. And all it's done is create a loop for people. Everyone's trying to, change their mind for this, change their mind for that, meditate, yoga, do all of these things. But
or worse medications. Or worse medications.
Yeah, medications. But the reality is everyone is in a worse place than when they started.
Yeah.
Everyone thinks they're getting better in this, but then they crash out in this. And then they think they're getting better because of this, and then they crash out.
I was watching an NDE last night, and there was a girl talking about how she got on like 4 prescriptions when the original diagnosis was misdiagnosed.
Yeah.
And she got on this medication, it wasn't working, so they gave her a second medication to counteract. And she was on her 4th medication, and that's one of the leading factors of what killed her.
Yeah.
And she started drinking all the time because that's the only thing that helped her brain turn off. But like, I know I used alcohol so much in my life to mask these things that God helped me with eventually.
Yeah.
Like the things that I'm trying to address here is how you can use prayer, how you can read your Bible, which the Bible is one of those things that you might read it one day and you have a set amount of time you're going to read at the time you have. And you might not find something that day that really hit you as you read it. But as you go through and read the Bible a second, a third, and a fourth time, you're going to be amazed how that same passage a year later was exactly what you needed to hear on the right exact day at the right exact time. And you're like, oh, that passage hits so differently today.
Yeah.
Or turning on worship music when you're feeling like crap and listening to worship music, you can work out or taking care of your body and honoring God through your day.
I mean, looking at the Bible, you've got Psalms, which is, just crying out to God in so many ways. It
Right.
can help people through so many things. And then Proverbs is basically just like rules for life to live by, right? Like the Bible is the ultimate self-help book.
Right.
And God is the ultimate healer for us because he created us, he can heal us. And so, meditating on the word,
right?
Meditating on God's word, praying to God instead of meditating. That's the way you heal yourself.
There's, we're talking about the new age stuff where The Secret, right?
Mhm.
There's a part of The Secret that talks about, and it shows grass growing. And I always remember this. And it's like, you believe in something and you'll start to see it start to grow. And you'll believe in it. And then something doesn't go your way and you stop. And then the universe honors your command and it stops working.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow, that's true. Like, I got to keep working. I got to believe in this. Like the secret. And I realized how relatable that is to God.
Yeah.
How someone has something in their life happen where something's really traumatic. And they're like, none of this stuff is working. Like right now, we just had a really hard time for some people who thought they were going to live with God right now in heaven. And how that's a tough day when you get through the day and you're laying down and you're like, I thought I was going to be with you today,
Yeah.
And like, you can get down in the dirt about it and be sad. And that's okay for a little bit because if you're excited to see God, that's a good thing.
Yeah.
But if you continue to go down this path and you continue to look for a new person telling you about a date, if you're looking for that next person that's only going to want to talk to you about that stuff, like you can't surround yourself in it.
Because then you're not in God.
Right.
And that's what you need to be.
Well, I'm saying you're doing the same thing as a secret.
No, yeah, I know.
You keep looking for the next thing that's going to, okay, I got to keep going. I got to believe this is going to
and that's the thing about The Secret and all these other new age things is they mask, they cover up. You can think a certain way for so long, but when something gets you off track, you're going to go, your mind's going to revert, right? But when you're in God, you can constantly give it to God.
Right.
And you might be down for a day, but God's going to lift you back up.
Right.
And the joy of your salvation, the joy of having God in you, it's going to constantly raise you back up.
And he doesn't tell you when you're mad or frustrated or don't understand something to just suck it up, buttercup. He doesn't say that to you. He says, come talk to me. Come to me with your problems.
Yeah.
I'm here for you. Like, it's in the Bible. It tells you everything you need to know. And like, it's one of those things where when you're in the middle of things, fellowship is one of the things that I didn't add in a video, but if you don't have fellowship through Christ, that's why church can be really important.
Yeah.
Finding other people who are your age or even someone you might even learn to mentor people.
Yeah.
And you don't even think you're a mentor.
And I mean, every church or most churches have, the different youth groups. They've got the different men's groups, the women's groups, the marriage counseling groups. They've got every type of self-help through God group you can have.
My church says this all the time. You're meant to live in circles, not rows. Meaning when you go to church, you're in a bunch of rows, right?
Oh, okay.
You're meant to live in a circle where you're sharing versus you're watching the front of somebody else preach to you.
Yeah.
But, my pastor says it all the time. If you're not doing that, he's like, I can point out your flaws in your life, and it's going through some of the things we're talking about right now. If you're not praying, if you're not, like, tithing is another one. He touches on that, and he's like, I get more emails on a Monday morning about people like pissed off that I was talking about tithing again. He's like, I didn't bring it up. It's in the Bible. But how many other things are you not doing in your life where he starts to say, are you in circles?
Yeah.
No, I don't do that. Are you part of a ministry? No, I don't do that. Are you you want to pick apart your church because you got mad at someone one day? That's where a lot of people leave religions because of church hurt.
Yeah.
And I shared this in another episode where my daughter gets mad at people at church because she's like, well, aren't these people supposed to, even our peers, supposed to be the people who are like better than everyone else? And it's not the truth. Like, we're all broken.
Yeah. So, I mean, every person on this earth has their flaws.
Yeah.
Right. And
more some than others.
Yeah, you do. But I think that's what church helps to heal with your flaws.
Yeah.
So God helps to heal with your flaws, not the church. The church presents avenues to remaining in God.
Kind of like my daughter's talking about, where she goes to church and she thinks her peers are supposed to be acting like they're different, you know?
Yeah.
And then you see Christians act that way, and it's like it gives Christians a bad name because we're told to live our lives like Christ.
Yeah.
And that's how you're going to point people to want to get to know more about our religion. But we all fall short. So
I remember when I was a kid, I was going to a Lutheran church. That's what I was raised to go to. And, you know, I grew up pretty poor, right? And so we didn't go to church often, but we went, and it was a Christmas Eve service. And I just remember us sitting at the back of the church, like I can barely see the pastor or whatever, you know, over the crowds. But like the whole front of the church was like all the wealthy people. I don't know if they reserved seats or whatever, but they all had fur coats on and whatever up there.
Yeah.
It was Chicago in the winter. And I just remember as a kid thinking like, that seems the opposite of church to me.
Right.
Like, why do they take priority?
Yeah.
Why are they the ones in the front of the church? I didn't like that. And that always kind of turned me off from the church.
Yeah, I kind of felt that way when I was flying to England this summer.
Yeah.
When first class was just a more expensive, better seat meal. And now it's like a totally different tax bracket, like to be able to afford to fly first class.
Yeah.
Because I asked somebody, because we were traveling with somebody, how much does it cost for this ticket versus that ticket? They're like, it's like $4,000 or $5,000 more. I'm like, you paid $5,000 more for a 9-hour flight?
Yeah.
They're like, it's worth it. And I'm like,
like, how is that?
like, no, I'm not paying for that.
I don't know. That's what drives me away from churches a lot.
Yeah.
And to me, it's like really finding a church that you can see that's not what it's all about, right? Because tithing is extremely important. And that's something that can turn people away in the beginning because they're worried about, you know, some pastor's rich and, you know, whatever. But tithing is important. It's giving God your first fruits, right? And that's what God has said all the way through the Old Testament. It's interesting though, because as a church, it's important to get those tithes also because you need to run all these programs that support your community, because the church is meant to be a community that provides people with fellowship.
And they should be doing that.
And so that tithing is important. And I understand why it's important to the church. But like, to me, it's important that, you know, if a church has a lot of extra money, that it's going to good programs to help people.
So the church I'm currently at, they will give you a spreadsheet where their money goes.
Yeah.
They have accountability on all levels. They have a team for the pastor that he has to review things with his life currently, how things are going. There's so many checks and balances.
That's great. That's the same with the church I go to. Same thing. They've got a whole group that oversees the financial stuff, not the pastor,
And I don't go to a church that tickles your ears.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, they tell you the hardships of what being a Christian is supposed to be about, but it definitely made me feel better. Not to speak bad about the churches, but if you go to a church and you think it's a really like Bible-led good church in your area, please leave it in the comments, because you don't know who's watching this and someone might be looking for a church. Mine's Rock Point in Queen Creek. Which church do you go to?
Scottsdale Bible Church in Scottsdale.
So if you're in those areas, like, check those churches out. I know there's good churches out there, and there's some churches that if you get there and they just want to tickle your ears, if you don't know what that means, basically they're just going to tell you what you want to hear about the Bible. Basically turn it into The Secret, where it's a prosperity thing where you're like, God will give you whatever you want. That works for a certain amount of time, like The Secret did for me, until it doesn't.
Yeah.
And then you're like, whoa, what am I doing here? Because once you lose God, if you have God in your life and you think it's working and he goes away in your mind, it's a dark place then.
Yeah.
Because you will turn to the things that got you to the point where you needed God.
Yeah.
And it's a recycling thing where even people that have God in their life.
It's literally as simple as God is light.
Mm-hmm.
God fills you with light. If you are removed from light, you're now back in the darkness.
100%. Would you like to add any closing comments to here? I think this is a good place to end it. I think we said some really powerful things, talking about kind of back to basics, talking about what being a Christian means for us.
Yeah.
Is there anything you wanted to add or close with?
I mean, I think back to the basics is the perfect way to put it. And I know for myself, I'm really looking forward to getting back to the basics. Before all the rapture stuff started, you know, I spent most of my time, my free time, reading the Bible, learning more about the Word, researching, watching, learning videos, teaching videos about the Bible. And I was really digging into all of that. And I feel like all the rapture stuff sidetracked me. I allowed it to kind of take over my mind and it's 2,550 days from this. It's year 77 of Israel. It's going to happen. And, that kind of hijacked my mind personally. And I'm looking forward to getting back to the basics, just connecting with God to learn more about his word, to have a deeper relationship with him, and to move forward and not have some countdown on my life, and just getting back to remembering that God could come at any time. That's how you are meant to live your life. That's how God intended us to live our lives, is knowing that he could come at any time. So how are we living?
100%. And I think I'm going to leave you with a video that I picked out. It's one of my favorites. I used to listen to it every morning when I woke up, and it's kind of a reminder of what Jesus Christ did for us and how to learn to forgive other people for what they've done. Because if Jesus could forgive the people on the cross that was doing what happened to him, you should be able to forgive the people in your life, especially while we're going through some times where you might be blaming somebody else for how you feel right now. And then we have a message at the end, and I've started to add this to all our videos. If you aren't sure how to accept Jesus into your life, you don't need to be at a church. You can be at your home, but there's the prayer of salvation at the end of this video. And I made it quite a lengthy so you can say it out loud. Just if you feel in your heart you want to give Jesus your life, it says it right there. Without further ado, I'm going to press play on the video, and we'll see you guys next week. Bye.
Right. Love you guys.
Love you.
They first took off his clothes. Then they took long leather thongs with steel pellets or lead pellets on the end and beat him across the back until he could hardly stand up. Then they put a crown of thorns on his brow and his face was bleeding. And they laughed at him and they spit on him and they mocked him. And with one snap of his finger, 72,000 angels had already drawn their swords ready to come to his rescue and wipe this planet out of existence in the universe. And Jesus said, no, to this end was I born. He wasn't just another revolutionary. He wasn't just another hippie. He was not just another great man. He was God in the flesh. And oh, the ethics that he taught. Never a man spake like that man. When you get hit on one side, he says, turn the other cheek. He never said what to do after that. But he did say, forgive 70 times 7. Count that up. Jesus taught that we're to forgive. He taught a revolution in the way we're to live. He taught us that it wasn't just our outward actions that God judges, but it's the inward thoughts and intents. And he dragged and lifted and hauled that cross. He didn't squirm, he didn't yell, he didn't scream. He just took it and said, Lord, forgive them. They don't know what they're doing. When he died on that cross, they nailed him, they put the nails in his hands. And you know what he said? Forgive them, they know not what they do. Forgive them. Could you forgive somebody that's putting nails in your hands and you know you didn't deserve it? Then look at the death he died. Did ever a man die like Jesus? The lightning flashed and the thunder roared and the earth began to shake. And even the soldiers confessed that this must be the Son of God. Anyone that can see Jesus on that cross and not be touched has a heart of stone. And then on the cross. He said, my God, why hast thou forsaken me? And then he dropped his head and said, it's finished. What did he mean? He meant your plan of salvation was finished. God can now forgive you of all your sins because Jesus had finished God's plan for your salvation. Because you see, God knows every one of you by name. He has the hairs of your head numbered.